Hello, viewers, and today we're going to talk about the notorious Kickass Book 4. This book is like a smelly turd that just dropped on a cake. Imagine eating a delicious cake that's very appetizing, that's wonderful, a wedding cake, and some man just jumps on top of it and shits on your parade. Yeah, this book is, I'm about to rip it a whole new butt, but before I tear into this book, before I rip every page out before your eyes, 57 or 8% of you haven't even subscribed. Like a majority of you haven't even smashed the subscribe button. And I've made such quality content, obviously, even though it's a little bit amateur, but I'm working on it. And if you want to support me, if you want to see my line of work and behind the scenes, please subscribe. I'm still living in my mom's basement, and the fabric of my life is just it's deteriorating. My human condition is worsening, and yeah, just you're not helping things unless you subscribe. So I had to address that at some point, because 58% of you haven't even smashed it hard. So please, if you have any sort of sympathy, please subscribe. See, he wants you to subscribe. He smiles every time he sees someone subscribe on my channel. If you want to see more of him, subscribe. Enough of that out of the way. Let's talk about the actual topic we came to discuss. So, I typically love Mark Millar. He's a great writer. He wrote, Kick-Ass, obviously, as well as the other spinoffs. And he even wrote this one book. I can't think of it all of a sudden. I'll get back to you on that, actually. He wrote the Kingsman. My bad. I was blanking out for a minute, but yeah, he wrote the Kingsman, even that book too, and those movies were pretty solid. But there's one area where he clearly and blatantly fails, and this is the book. I'm very fond of the whole series as a whole. I love Kick-Ass, and I love the other characters like the motherfucker. Ass Kick is a little, basic and mediocre, but I still love Big Daddy and Hit Girl and Night Bitch and the Forever Crew. It's just, I love all them, but yeah, just this book, just imagine how, like, the worst thing you've ever seen, like drywall, like just staring at a dry wall getting painted. Just imagine that, watching paint dry. That's the symbolism for this book. But yeah, so here's how the video is going to work. I'm going to discuss my main gripes and cons. I have around 5 or so cons. 5. 5. But let me first actually get the positives out of the way, because I at least want to start this off with the good news rather than the sinister and dreadful news. So my two main, I guess you could say, somewhat pros, or like decent things about it, is the artwork is good as usual. It's much more polished than the other ones, mainly because it was made in 2017, in the late 2000s, 2010s. But that's kind of a con of itself too. Is the fact there was a huge time gap between the third and the fourth book, and it kind of leads to a con itself. It kind of backfires with that pro. But another pro, I guess you could say, is I love Big Daddy's flashbacks in this book. He actually appears more in this book than the other ones, even though he was alive in the first one. Sorry for the minor spoiler, but it's kind of obvious he dies, especially since I think in one of the movie trailers he even died. He shows him getting burned to death, set ablaze. But yeah, those are my two main pros, but there's about to be a plethora of cons and reasons why I despise even thinking and contemplating about this book. This gives me nightmare fuel, ladies and gentlemen. But let me list all the cons. It could take me an hour just discussing all the petty cons. Well, there's some petty, but major cons. My first con is how it directly rips off one of my favorite movies ever made, The Godfather. Imagine Al Pacino being in this, because they literally ripped him off. Or not Al Pacino, well, Marlon Brando, my bad. Well, they rip him off too, even. The other guys look like him. He's even got that mouth that kind of looks similar to, his facial structure that looks similar. It looks similar to this character or this ripoff. This character just looks identical to Vito Corleone from The Godfather. He's even from the same place, Italy. How did they manage to, did they not know that, could they not think of anywhere else to put, have him be from? I mean, he's from the same identical place as Vito Corleone, which kind of infuriates me. And a lot of the designs too rip off other characters from that were made and were popular in the late 2010s, like the girl from Mortal Kombat. They rip off so many characters. It's so blatant too. There's lots of plagiarism. That's my main gripe. And I guess you could say there's two other big factors that could be seen as cons in this. Second one being how they randomly kill off people, or people just never even come back to this comic. So many people randomly leave. So much of the superhero team that he was with just die randomly. Like Night Bitch, I think she dies. So many random characters just die randomly because of this minor villain who isn't even in it for that long. And another, I guess you could say, con that also ties in with that point is there's no main villain in this. They're all minor. There's no big new villain that's going to end this off with a banger. Like, there's no villain like the Governor from The Walking Dead in it. There's no Negan that ends it off well, on a high note. It's just, they don't face anyone that threatening. There's nobody threatening this. It feels like a Venture movie in the sense that the villain's so briefly to the point he doesn't even feel that influential, that intimidating. He dies so easily in this book. My Hit Girl, there's nobody that can really compete with the other characters that they brought in here. There's nobody that brings something new to the table that could be a big obstacle for Hit Girl and Kick-Ass. Dave, they seem too overpowered to the point that they somehow randomly feel overpowered in this book, even though in the previous ones they were outnumbered, outgunned. It just felt dumb and rushed. This book felt very rushed. And my other gripe is the relationship between Dave and his new girlfriend, redhead girlfriend, who just she's like some random bystander and pedestrian that comes along and somehow falls in love with him. It's so random and it doesn't feel natural. It feels very out of touch. Clearly none of these writers have dated in a while, because they just, how does she randomly fall in love with this guy that nearly ran her over? It makes no sense. Or she almost ran him over. It made no sense. And there's so much glamorized sex. It's so nonsensical. And some parts of their relationship I actually do like and admire, but it's just a lot of it seems very rushed. The relationship feels rushed. Kind of like my main criticism of the Batman movie, the recent one with Robert Pattinson, is it has the same problem of where Catwoman's relationship with Bruce Wayne feels very rushed. And that's what I feel in this. And I think the ending was kind of cool, but even then, with what happens to Kick-Ass, his fate, but even then, it doesn't really leave off anything cool. He doesn't continue his crime fighting, and he just becomes a stereotypical cop that isn't going to accomplish anything. And it's just, a lot of gripes I have. And there's not a lot of good characters left by the time everyone dies. And what my other gripe is, this paved a way to spinoffs that had other character that really killed off the name Kick-Ass. It really gave that identity and that name just a putrid taste in your mouth. I really think this paved the way for other terrible comic books. It felt very glamorized. It felt like the guy who wrote The Boys wrote this, and that's not a compliment. That's a terrible remark. But yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about this. I don't want to talk about this too much because I love the other books. I really adore those, but not this one. And I don't want to give this the time that it wants, It's already made me question my mental health. It's already played a toll on my health, so enough of this shit. But yeah, I think that's the last video I'll make for a while. the next video I'm going to make that will be upcoming will have a lot more depth, and it will have a lot more substance, and it'll be a lot longer. It'll be around 50 minutes. That's what I'm aiming for. I want to make a video that's kind of similar to documentaries or analysis videos where I talk about something with lots of context along with lots of substance. And that could be like maybe a movie idea. I go into great detail behind the scenes of the movie as well as in the movie, or even like comic books or video games, but it will most likely be a movie. So expect a movie analysis video or a documentary. And if you want, right now I haven't really decided when I want to do that. I'm a little bit indecisive with what movie I want to do, but I'm going to confirm it soon. And please leave comments of what you want to see, because I want to expect some comments from you guys, because I want you guys to, in some ways, contribute to my ideas so it feels like the community is really helping. It goes hand to hand together. We are a family and you're really helping. So leave any comments of what you'd like to see, what movie, and maybe we can even do a poll or something. Which actually I don't even think I can, because you have to have there's a certain subscriber count you need to have for that. But at least in the comments, leave as many ideas as you have for what particular movie you want to see, because I want to appeal to you guys. I want you guys to have a real, true say in what I do, because, you know, a YouTuber's career, it's nothing without you guys. So please, like I said already several times, I know I'm kind of overstating things, but I want this to be clear. Leave ideas. And yeah, have a great day, and it'll be a couple weeks, but expect great things. Expect something that will knock you guys dead. So blow your mind. Bye.